North America's largest developer of dollar stores. Over 4,600 stores open since 1993. For more information, visit our website at dollarstoreservices.com.
We are Dollar Store Services. My name is John LaFronz. I'm the general manager here. I've been here as of January 21st for 20 years. Very much enjoy what I do. I've got a pretty good background in the discount retail industry. I've owned my own stores. I've worked for discount retail chains. I've done domestic buying. I've done overseas buying. So I've been on all sides of our business. And for the last 20 years, I've been helping people like you develop stores of their own, and it's a very exciting job. I look forward very much to coming to work every day. It's really not a job at all. It's something I love to do. Dollar Store Services, we are the largest retail store developer of independently owned dollar stores in North America. We've opened over 4,600 stores since 1993, all sizes in virtually every state in the United States and overseas. We've opened stores in many foreign countries, in the Caribbean, in several countries in Africa, Saudi Arabia, Thailand, and so on. So we can, our primary work is here in the United States, of course, but we're perfectly capable of opening stores around the globe, and so we do. We have a very comprehensive package. It consists of 7 key services designed to deliver a turnkey opportunity to you. Good evening, everyone. We just got started. If you have not muted your phone, please do so now so that there's no background noise and everybody can hear. And as soon as we get to the question and answer part of the evening, I'll have you unmute your phones, ask your questions. So appreciate your indulgence while we get through this first part. So again, we have 7 key services designed to get your store open quickly and efficiently. There are those 7 key services, consist of financing assistance, site location assistance. We negotiate your lease agreement with and for you. We do a complete setup of the store, and we provide, of course, all the labor, all the shelving, the fixtures, all the equipment that you need, the interior signage, and allowance towards the cost of the outdoor sign, and, of course, all the inventory to set up your store for your opening. We provide comprehensive training, and as part of our package, you become a member of our merchandise network, which can afford you savings of 20 to 25% on merchandise each and every time you order. And lastly, we provide you long-term support. We stay with you on a very regular basis for the life of your business, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We do develop several different kinds of stores, different types of stores. We do, of course, a dollar-only store. We do a 1, 2, 3 store, $1, $2, $3 store, which is what we're going to talk a little bit more about tonight. We do a dollar plus store, which is very much like a Family Dollar or a Dollar General. And we also do what we call a big box store, and they start at 10,000 square feet, and it's kind of, I guess you would say, a mini grocery with a very strong general merchandise component. So let's talk a little bit about the 7 key services very quickly. In financing, we have a number of different lenders that we work with for you, and they can typically address every credit profile that's presented to them. I always tell people, never assume that you can't get financing. Our lenders are very creative, and they can often finance people that didn't think they were going to have that opportunity. And they have a lot of different programs. They can work with you to access home equity. They can help you with an SBA loan if you need to do that. You can borrow against, we have a program where if you have a 401k, you can roll it over and basically borrow from yourself with no penalties. If you need a business plan for a lender, we can provide that to you at no charge. And of course, if you need a little bit of credit repair, as most of us do, we all have a little number of bumps and bruises on our credit, and I'm certainly no exception. A number of our lenders can actually work with those bumps and bruises or help you get rid of them. So doing some credit repair. So in finance, as I say, what I always say is that never assume you can't get financing. Let's see what we can do for you. And what I can tell you is if you do decide to go forward, you can do so with filling out a basic application and a $500 deposit, which is fully refundable. That gets you into finance. And once you're in finance, you will know within 48 to 72 hours how much funding you qualify for, what the terms of the loan would be, and so forth. And that will enable you to make a decision as to whether or not you would like to go forward. If you do, then the next step is moving to our site location department. We have an in-house real estate department, a number of site location specialists, and of course leasing managers to help you negotiate your lease. In site location, we'll assign a leasing manager and a site locator specifically to work with you on your project. And they will start out by, excuse me, if you haven't muted your phone, please mute your phone. Thank you. We start out by identifying every location that's available in the area that you've targeted for your store, in the size range that you've targeted. Then our staff goes through and eliminates the locations that we know will not work. Perhaps the location is too close to a competitor, or the asking rent is so high that we know we're not going to be able to negotiate it to an acceptable level, or the locations in an area that we don't believe is safe or conducive to you doing business and operating there. So we discard all those locations. The locations that we find then meet our criteria, our basic criteria, we present to you. And you will have access to a website that we created some years ago. It's called EasyTrack. And you will be able to log into that website at any time and see all the information about every location that we've asked you to take a look at. All the population, the demographics, the ethnicity, types of homes, are they owned, are they leased, household income, and then the traffic going by the shopping center, the population at 1, 3, and 5 miles, then a map of the shopping center showing where your location would be within that shopping center. So you can kind of gauge, if there's a large big box store, how close are you to that, how close are you to the street, do you have good visibility, all of those things. And of course, the rental rates. The locations that you like, we have you go out and visit, because we want you to assess them on the ground and see, is the shopping center well maintained? Is it well lit at night? Things like that. And then we'll ask you, we'll arrange with the broker there on site to get you into the space. So you can take some pictures and do a quick drawing, because we need to know, once we start negotiating, we need to know what we need to negotiate for. Does the space need new flooring? Does it need paint? Does it need ceiling replaced? Is there a stockroom wall? Do we need to have the landlord put one in place for you? All those things. So we negotiate on as many locations as we believe have merit. Now that's the site location process. At some point you're going to say, this is a location, let's pursue this one, or let's pursue these 2 or 3. And as I say, we can negotiate on as many locations as together we believe have merit. And that's always good, because sometimes you can use one as a little bit of a lever against another landlord. Say, we really like your location, but this center over here is $2 a foot cheaper, virtually the same. So we may go there unless you can do a little bit better for us, and that's how negotiations go. Once we start to actually negotiate the lease agreement, it starts with what's called a letter of intent, and that's our first offer to the landlord. All the items that we are going to ask them to ultimately include in a lease. The rent that you would be willing to pay, the term of the lease, what we want the landlord to do to the space to have it ready for you. If it needs new paint, needs new flooring, whatever those things might be. We want the landlord to do that. We don't want you to have to absorb that cost. So letter of intent starts with that. It actually has over 17 key provisions, all designed to protect you as a prospective tenant. And I'll give you a couple of quick examples. One big one that I always talk about is making sure that the landlord is going to provide that space being ADA compliant. Now what that means, ADA is the Americans with Disabilities Act. So we want to make sure that that space conforms to all the requirements of that Americans with Disabilities Act. One critical factor there is the restrooms. The restrooms have to be handicapped accessible, which means they have to have special fixtures. They have to have a wider door. They have to have room for a wheelchair to pivot within that restroom if somebody that's in a wheelchair needs to use the restroom for whatever reason. We want the landlord to do that, because if you were to lease a space and you had to go back and retrofit that restroom, that can cost $10, $12, $15,000 sometimes. We don't want you to have to foot that bill. We're going to ask the landlord to do that, or we'll move on to another space. Another key provision is a no relocation clause. And what that does is, say, for example, you lease a space in a shopping center and you're 2 doors down from Target. Nice location, nice traffic. Everybody that parks in front of Target's store sees your store. You're going to get a lot of overflow business from being where you are. That no relocation clause means the landlord can't come to you 6 months or a year later and say, you know, Joe, I know you like this location, but I've got somebody that wants to pay a little bit more rent and they want it. So I'm going to move you down to the end of the center, down there in the weeds where your business is not going to be nearly as strong. And if you don't have that no relocation clause, most often the landlord has the right to do that. And a lot of people don't know that. So we put that into every lease so that that can happen for you. And of course, we also make sure that you have the exclusive right for the use that you're going to have, the business that you're going to operate in that store. So nobody can come in and open up a dollar store in the center and compete with you. It's very important. So those are some of the clauses we negotiate in the lease. And we go back and forth. Usually there's a few rounds of proposals and counter proposals, and then we get to the end game. And then the leasing manager, and you're going to be involved in each step of that. The leasing manager is going to review with you each and every time what the initial letter of intent said, and you'll see it. What the landlord came back with, we'll strategize on what we should go back and propose to them. And then we reach the final set of terms and conditions. You're in accord with it. The landlord is, and generally at that point they are. We go ahead and have them draft the lease. Our leasing manager reviews it with you line by line so you understand exactly what that lease says. And if then you're comfortable, then you go ahead and sign the lease. Then the good work begins. Well, not that that's bad work, but the more exciting work begins. We're going to be doing a couple of things now. First, you're going to be talking to our Vice President of Operations, and he's going to be coordinating with you and with the landlord the readiness of the space, the scheduling of the setup of your store, and so on. You're also going to be talking to our trainer and merchandise manager, and they're going to initiate your training as we get closer to the setup date, so it's fresh in your mind. We do that, and we'll get to that in a second. You're also going to be talking to the merchandise manager, and we'll talk about that as well as we get your opening orders put together. What happens there is once you've signed your lease, the merchandise manager has all the information about your location, all the demographics, everything we talked about earlier, who the competitors are, where they are, and so on. And then she'll get on the phone with you and she'll discuss any special needs in merchandise or categories that you may have identified. You may say, you know, there's some senior communities pretty close by my store. You know, what can we do to market to them? Or there are several schools right close by and the moms tend to come to the shopping center before they pick up their children afterwards. You know, what can we do to market to those customers and so on. So she'll take all that information, she'll take your input, and then she will put together a recommended set of orders for your store. She'll send them to you, and she will review them, and you can make any additions, changes, or deletions that you would like to make or want to make, because at the end of the day, it's your store, and we want you to be totally comfortable with the product that's going to be in your store. So it's a very transparent process. At the same time, we're going to, as I said, we're going to initiate your training, and we train over the phone and via a set of internet modules that we have, which is very, very effective. And what's nice about the internet piece of it is you can do it at your own pace. It's always available. You can log in, do a module, call the trainer the next day if you have questions, then move on to the next one. And then, of course, you always have access to that. It never goes away. So 6 months down the road, maybe you hire a new manager and you want to have them exposed to some of that training, it's there for you. And the trainer is always available. And a portion of the training, as I mentioned, we do live on the phone with you because it deals more with the merchandise suppliers and things like that. And that's more specific to your location geographically. So we always do that live. So the training is very extensive. You know, if you were to sit down and do the modules from top to bottom, it'd probably take you the equivalent of 2 or 3 8-hour days. But as I say, you can spread it out over time at your convenience and then come back to us with questions that you might have. You're going to have regular contact with the trainer for the first 90 to 120 days after you're open. And that's really important because what she's going to be doing then is she's going to be helping you replenish merchandise, right, fill in orders, replacement orders. She's going to be helping you source product that your customers may be asking for that you don't have. She's going to help you get ready for every upcoming season and holiday, making sure that your orders are placed at the appropriate time, that they're shipped so they arrive in your store in time to be put on display well in advance of the holiday or season. And of course, we also give you a schedule for all of that, and it includes when your interior signs should go up for that specific season or holiday. And you do get a complete set of seasonal and holiday signs for all those key times of the year. And after that first 90 to 120 days, if you're comfortable and we're comfortable with how your store is trending, then we move your store to a long-term coordinator's desk, and that person continues to perform that same support for you for the life of your business. It never stops. It never ends. Now, they won't reach out to you every day. They will reach out to you once or twice a week, but they will always be available to you at any time for any questions or assistance that you might have or need. Also, every week you're going to be getting emails from us on new merchandise that's available, new suppliers that may have come online and so forth, and we'll talk about the importance of that in just a minute. So that's kind of the overview of training and support after opening. Merchandise. Our merchandise network is really key to your store's operation. It's one of the most important components of our 7 key services. We have over 80 suppliers, and they're located strategically around the country so that wherever your store happens to be, there are going to be suppliers relatively close to you to ensure that the order and delivery times are short and the freight costs are very manageable. We have a number of suppliers that we call general merchandise suppliers, and they supply a lot of different categories, and they're located, again, around the country, in the Midwest, in the Southwest, in the East, and, of course, on the West Coast. Then we have more specialty suppliers, suppliers that are the best at 1 or 2 categories of merchandise. For example, we have a supplier that deals just in small electronics. We have a supplier that just specialize in costume jewelry. We have several that specialize in toys and so on. And over the years, we've identified the best suppliers of each category in the country, and that's who we work with. And some of these suppliers I've dealt with personally for 30 years or more. So they know us, we know them. Their product has excellent quality, their service is first rate, and we know that they're going to do a good job for you. We visit each of our suppliers about once a month. I just got back from 4 days on the road last week, and what we do when we visit these suppliers is we hand select the best new items that they have, and then we negotiate the prices on those items for you. And if the item that we're looking at that moment in time does not have the quality that we want it to have, or it's not well put together, or the packaging isn't right, or we can't get to a price that we believe is a fair price and provides good value for you and your customers, you'll never see that item from us. But you will see literally hundreds of new items from our offices from the different suppliers each and every week, because that's the backbone of the business. Cost of all merchandise is negotiable, and you can't do that over the internet, or you can't do that looking at a catalog. You really have to be face-to-face with the supplier or the vendor, holding the product in your hand, because as I say, you want to assess the value of the product, the utility of the product, but you also want to make sure the packaging is right so it looks like a quality item when it's on your shelf or on the wall in your store. So that's so important. And then very quickly, there are three keys to a good merchandise program. They are value, variety, and new merchandise, and I'll touch on each briefly because this is extremely important. How do we provide value? Well, we provide value, as I just described, because we don't accept the pricing from a supplier. We negotiate the pricing. And we do that on the best items available. So that information comes to you, and you can in turn provide that same value to your customers. How do we provide variety? We provide variety first because, as I mentioned, we have 80-plus suppliers that are located all over the country. But here's a key thing. In our business, merchandise is typically shipped to the stores in what's called a master carton. And a master carton typically has 72 or 144 pieces of one item. So if you were to order a pizza cutter, you would have to buy 6 dozen or 12 dozen of those. That's a lot of pizza cutters. So you'd put a dozen or so out on the floor, on the sales floor, and all the rest would be in the back room, taking up space, tying up inventory dollars, and not producing anything for you. But because we do so much business, good evening, welcome, because we do so much business with our suppliers, they will ship what's known as an inner pack. And in that carton of 72 pizza cutters, there are 6 boxes typically of 12 pizza cutters each. So our supplier will ship you 1 box. So you'll get 12 pizza cutters. They all go out on your counter. You don't have to worry about them getting lost or broken or damaged in the back room. And more importantly, they don't tie up dead inventory dollars. But the big advantage is because you only had to buy 12 and not 72, you can buy 5 other items, 12 pieces of each, for that same investment that you would have made on that 1 carton of 72 pieces. So now, just in that one example, you have 5 times the variety that you would have had if you had to buy that full carton. So that's key, and that happens, of course, all over the store. So that's a great advantage in terms of creating variety in your store. The other key advantage that you have within our network is because a lot of our suppliers have freight guarantees or freight caps, you're often enabled to buy product from, excuse me, if you haven't muted your phone, please do so until we get to the latter part of the evening. Thank you. You're able to buy from suppliers that your competitors typically cannot buy from. For example, if you're in Chicago, your independent competitors can typically only buy merchandise from suppliers in the greater Chicago area because the freight would impact them in a negative way. So they're dealing with that handful of suppliers. But you, because you're within our merchandise network or supplier network, you can order product from vendors in Southern California. You can order product from suppliers in Detroit or in New York, Houston, and so on, and have items that your competitors can't even begin to think about having because they don't have that network that you have available to you. It's so important. And the last thing that I would tell you is within our network, being part of our network, you will find that you will be able to save 20 to 25% on the cost of merchandise as opposed to what you would pay at that same supplier as an independent owner not part of our network. And that's an incredible advantage. Just looking at some round numbers, if you were to buy $300,000 in inventory next year, just by being in our network, you would save $60,000 to $75,000 on the cost of merchandise, which falls right to your bottom line and becomes extra profit for you. It's just an incredible advantage that is part of our package for all of our store owners. So keep that in mind. One last thing I do want to touch on is very briefly about merchandise, is new merchandise. It's really the engine that pulls the train. And the reason I say that is because when a customer shops in your store, if I was to shop in your store, because I know me and I know our industry, most people when they shop, and I'm sure all of you are basically the same way, you know what you want to buy when you go to a dollar store. And typically they're consumable items. You know, I do the same thing when I go to the grocery store. I know I walk into the dollar store, which is next to the grocery store that I shop on my way home, and I'll be there tonight actually, because there's a couple of things my wife reminded me of. But I'll go into that dollar store, and I know I want to pick up awesome. I need a couple of rolls of paper towels, pack of toilet tissue. I need shampoo. So there's 6 items maybe that I'm going to intend to buy tonight, and most people have a similar list when they walk into a dollar store. But here's what happens. So I walk into your store, and I find those items that I came in for, and I've satisfied my needs. So now I may take a little bit of time, poke around the store, see what's going on. There's a lot of attractive merchandise. So I'm walking the aisles, and maybe I get back to the auto care section, and there's some of these nice, they're like scrubbing mitts. You put them over your hand, you dip them in the soapy water, and you can wash your car. And it's $1. So I'll pick one up, I'll throw it in my cart. And, you know, the weather's pretty good here, but I always need to wash my car. And I'll be up in housewares or in linens, and I'll see a nice oven mitt, pot holder, and kitchen towel combination, and it's $2 retail, and it's a pretty nice item. My wife will like it. It'll make her happy. It's an all-spring design, so I'll grab that and I'll put it in my cart. And I'll pick up a few items for my grandkids, and before I know it, that $6 sale, $6 purchase that I intended to make is now going to be $12 or $14 or $15, because now I'm buying items that I didn't know I needed, I didn't intend to buy, but the perceived value was so good that I had to make the decision to buy them, and so I did. Now here's the key to new merchandise. When I come back next week, I need consumables again. There's certain items that I used up. I need them again. I may need toothpaste. I may need some cleaner for the countertop and paper towels, whatever those things are. I come back and I need those consumables. I don't need the oven mitt set because I still have it. I don't need the scrubbing glove for my car. Still have that. And I have the toys for my grandkids. But if you show me something new in auto care or in household linens or in toys, well, now I'm a customer again. And that's why it's so important that each time a customer comes into your store, two things happen. Once, they find the items they're looking for. And then two, they find items that they didn't see before, so they can make a new buying decision. And what that does, as I mentioned, it increases your sales, it increases your average sale per customer, and it increases your profit, because you're basically doubling your sale just by having new merchandise. It's so important. In fact, when we talk to store owners when we're training, one of the things that we do talk about is making sure that each and every time you place an order, fully 40% of that order should be merchandise that you've not had in your store before. And I always encourage stores not to rebuy the new items for a couple of reasons. One, your customers have seen it. Maybe you brought in 72 pieces or 144 pieces of a new item. You sold through it. You had it on an end cap. It was very well received. Don't go back to the well, as they say. Find some new items and put those on that end cap next time. What happens is two things. When your customer comes back, if they didn't decide to buy that pot holder and oven mitt set, they're not going to see it when they come back the second time, and they're going to come up to you and say, Joe, you know, I saw that nice combo set with the oven mitt and the pot holder and the towel, and I was going to buy it, but I didn't. I was kind of in a hurry, and I don't see them. Where are they? And you're going to say to that client, the customer, you're going to say, you know, that was a special buy. It was a one-time opportunity. They were really popular. A lot of people liked them, just as you did, but unfortunately, we can't get them. But we've got so many new items in the store. You know, take a few minutes, shop around. I know you're going to find some things that you're going to want. And what that does is two things. It educates the customer to know that when they're in your store and they see an item that they like, they have to buy it right now. They're going to make that decision to buy that right now because they know it's not going to be there the next time. And the other thing it tells them is that I got to come back and shop this store every week or two because they always have something new. There's always something that I'm going to want to buy. I don't know what it is, but I know it's going to be there. So that's so critical. It builds customer loyalty. It builds the kind of the treasure hunt excitement of a dollar-type store that is so powerful in our business. People come in to buy what they want to buy, and they leave buying items they didn't know they wanted to buy, but the value is so incredible that they have to have them. So that is kind of our program in a nutshell, a very large nutshell, and I apologize for the time I took. And as I said, you know, if you do decide to get started, see if you can get financing. If you need financing, your store development representative can do an application with you on the phone. It takes about 10 minutes. Put that $500 deposit in place, and that is, by the way, fully refundable for any reason or for no reason. If you can't get financing, you ask for your deposit back, goes right back to you. If you get into site location and we can't find a good location for you or one that you like, just say, okay, you know, I want to stop now, John, and that deposit goes right back to you. And if you do go forward and ultimately open a store, that deposit becomes part of the purchase price of your store, so you never lose that deposit, not one time. Our store packages for $1 only store start at 1,000 square feet, and they're $87,900, and that includes everything that we talked about in the last 15 or 20 minutes, all the merchandise, all the fixtures, the site location, the leasing, the financial assistance, the training, and the back-end support, and, of course, membership and supplier network, all included in that one price. We're not a franchise, so there are never any fees or royalties. You pay us one time for the store that you decide to develop, and you'll never pay us again, but we're always going to be here for you. Let me take about 3 minutes and talk about what's going on in the industry, and then we'll kind of open it up. Because I did want to talk about the 123 stores, but we can talk about any one of our stores that you would like. The 123 store we've been doing for about 6 months now. It's been very well received. We've done dollar-only stores for many years. We've done dollar-plus stores for many years as well. The 123 kind of came about because we found that there was a lot of interest on the parts of store customers in finding items that sell for more than $1, but they don't want to be confused. If you go to a Dollar General or Family Dollar, just as an example, you're going to see that they have very few items at $1 and many items over $3, $4, $5. Dollar General does all their tonnage. The bulk of their sales, they do it between $1 and $5. So what we did was we created a store merchandise mix around the best items that can sell for between $1 and $3. So it puts you at a nice competitive advantage with Family Dollar and Dollar General, and you will have many more $1 items than either of those stores will have. So you have the best of the over $1 product, and you have much more dollar-only product than either of those operators have. Big advantage for you. The other thing that the 123 does is it opens up many more locations for you to consider because they can support a little bit higher rental rate than a dollar-only store can. And of course, with Dollar Tree recently having gone to $1.25, they really don't have any kind of a competitive advantage because they're no longer a $1 store. So they're right in the mix with everybody else. But, you know, maybe you've seen this too. I've been in probably a dozen Dollar Tree stores over the last 3 or 4 weeks in different parts of the country as I was traveling. And although in their press releases in December and January they said we're gonna provide expanded items, better value items, because we can now be $1.25, but that didn't happen. As far as I can see, all I've seen is the fact that they've marked up all their dollar items to $1.25, and there's been a lot of grumbling I see on social media and on the internet, and I hear it when I walk through the stores too. They say, well, this is the same item. This isn't better. This isn't new. This glass cleaner is the same size it was last month, but it's now 25 cents more. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot, you might say, with regards to what they did, and I'm sure they'll recover. But the fact is they have no more competitive advantage being a dollar-only store because they're not. So the 123, great format, satisfies more of your customers' needs and wants. There is no competition. You are the competition for other operators. Why are dollar stores hotter than ever? You know, last year the industry did over $60 billion with a B, billion dollars, and it's projected to do between 65 and 68 billion this year. The pandemic, sad as it was all the way around, for our stores it was, I hate to say a positive thing, but it certainly created a lot of extra traffic, a lot of extra business. We had product that your traditional stores like grocery stores did not have. So a lot of customers that had never shopped at a dollar store before did so for the first time, and all the indicators are, all the surveys show that they have stayed as customers because they like what they found. Not only to find what they were looking for during the pandemic, but they found that across the board the stores had value, they had incredible variety, and they had a couple of other things. There was a survey that was done last year towards the end of the height of the pandemic, I guess, and it was dealing with customers in grocery stores. And they asked a lot of questions, but a couple of key ones were, when you shop a store, whether it's a grocery store or a discount store, what do you look for? And overwhelmingly, the responses were price and then convenience. What do dollar stores offer? Number one, obviously price. You know, your dollar store is going to be the least expensive provider of virtually every item that you carry, as opposed to Walmart or Target, of course, opposed to a grocery store and so on. And then the second thing, what do dollar stores provide in your shopping experience? Convenience. You can park right up front. You can get in. You can do your shopping quickly, get the values that you know you need, and get out. And those are two key drivers for people in that survey. One other thing that they did ask, and I found this kind of interesting, they asked if the people being surveyed, they asked them, do you feel like during the pandemic that your grocery store price gouged you? And over 77% said yes, absolutely. They felt like they were taken advantage of. And maybe there were price pressures and things like that. But the perception on the part of people was that, yeah, they took advantage of me, and I've looked for other shopping options as a result of that to the greatest degree that I can. And that plays right into our business. And right now, there are great locations available because, again, unfortunately, as a result of the pandemic, a lot of traditional businesses couldn't survive. They had to close. Our stores did not have to close because they were deemed essential in all but, I think, one state for a short period of time. So there are lots of, I'm going to sneeze and I'm going to apologize if I do. I'll try and get off the speaker very quickly. But landlords have a lot of great spaces available right now, and they're making deals. And they like our business because they know it's pandemic proof. Hopefully we never have another year like we did in 2020 and part of 2021. But all that being said, should something like that ever occur again, our business is basically bulletproof when it comes to that. In fact, you'll see an uptick should that ever happen in your business. So that's very briefly what's going on in the industry. Unemployment's down. Shoppers are out looking for values, looking for bargains. The demand for our product is extremely high. And with that, so all the arrows are up, I guess you might say, in terms of the dollar store business. So with that, what I'd like to do is kind of open up to questions. If you have a question, I would ask you just to unmute your phone, introduce yourself with your first name and where you're from, and let's get on to your questions. Who wants to break the ice?
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Who's this?
My name is Irby. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
My question is, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. My question is, as far as the pandemic, and I know a lot of businesses are looking for workers. How are we able to find people who want to work in the industry, or are we ourselves working in the business to run our store, or do we hire managers or associates to run the store, and how do we draw them in? How do we draw those people in to work in our store if we can't do it ourselves?
Okay, two good questions. It depends on a couple of things. Some people, when they get into this business, they want to operate the store themselves. I won't say they're buying themselves a job, but it's something that they want to do, and maybe a husband and wife or a family with a couple of grown children want to kind of run the business themselves, and that's great, and that's easily done.
Okay.
If you do have to hire some people, there's a lot of non-traditional ways to do that. A lot of our owners will tap into resources such as their church or civic organizations that they belong to. Most of our stores that are staffed with part-time employees, which works out great because you can hire some moms, for example, that are only looking to work 4 hours a day while their children are in school. So they can't be as flexible for full-time employment, but something like this works out great for them. College students that are looking to work 4 or 5 hours in the evening. There's any number of resources, and we help you with that in training. I know there's a lot of businesses having a lot of difficulty hiring people, but they're looking for people to work 6 to 8 hours a day during prime time, so we look past those people. If we can find them, that's great. But we don't rely on that. You know, we look for part-time employees that are looking to maybe supplement a little bit of their income, and where we can be, excuse me, we can be flexible with the hours that they want and need to work.
I understand. Now, and do you guys help us with that, or do you, as far as training or how to find people, or place ads in Indeed or the other one, JobHut, or those type of temporary agencies? Do we employ them, or do we consult them in the hiring process, or you know, I guess that's my question.
Sure. I would say in most cases that's almost not necessary. And yes, we can help you write ads. We do have templates for all of that we provide to you. But using Craigslist, using some of those organizations that I mentioned earlier, that's really the best way to go. Years ago when I had my stores, when I was getting ready to hire people, I put an ad in my church bulletin, which I think it cost $10.
Okay.
And I must have had, this is a while back, obviously a little bit different now, but I probably had 30 people call me Sunday evening. So there's a lot of ways to tap the resources that you need. And yes, we help you with that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good questions. Yes, next question.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Who's this?
This is Monique. I'm from Houston, Texas. I heard you talk about the suppliers. With so much going on right now with just the delay in supplies, the different transportation and logistic issues, what safeguards, if any, do you guys have that we can be assured that perhaps we would not be faced with those sorts of logistical problems or the sorts of issues that a lot of companies are having just with deliveries and product options for the consumers?
Sure. No, I understand. Excuse me. I'm sorry. And again, good questions. Well, that's kind of been burning up the news. It really hasn't touched our industry to really any degree at all. Our suppliers bring in merchandise in such large quantities that they haven't experienced a shortfall. There may be an item or two here or there that they may be out of at any given time, but you know, I stay pretty close to that because we're opening new stores every week, and I review all the orders that we write for those new stores, and then I review what's shipped because I want to make sure that I review their retail pricing and so forth. So I'm kind of immersed in that, I guess you might say. And what I've seen over the last number of months and actually up through last week, the fill rates from suppliers, and that's what we talk about in the industry, and a fill rate would be if you bought 100 items, did you get 100 items, or did you get 98 or 96? And the fill rates are running now about 96%, maybe 97%, give or take a point one way or the other, which is kind of what it's traditionally been. It's always been about 97%, so I'm not seeing any fall off in that. And last week I spent, I think I might have mentioned, I spent 4 days on the road with some suppliers, and I did not see any issues with outs as I reviewed what they have in their standard assortment and in the new items, of course. In terms of transportation, getting the products from A to B, from the supplier to your store, it has been a touch slower, I will say that. Maybe, I think what we're seeing is 3 to 4 days longer than typical, where in the past, if you placed an order on Monday, more than likely you would receive that product within 4 or 5 days. Now it's taken an extra 2 or 3 days, it seems. But that seems to be getting better too. I was joking with somebody today. I said I think all the truckers are up in Canada still, and that's why we don't get the deliveries faster. So that has been a little bit of a blip, but I see that correcting itself in a short period of time. Kind of what's caused that is I know you've seen on the news is, you know, through November, December there was such a backlog backlog at the docks of inbound containers and container ships. There weren't enough trucks to unload them, so they fell behind, and all the truck drivers and all the trucking companies were primarily focused on delivering containers, so there were less available rigs, I guess you might say, to move product within the country from A to B. But it seems, like I said, like that's correcting itself. And the way I monitor it is when we set up a store, we have typically a 6-day window. We arrive on a Sunday evening. Monday morning, the truck carrying the fixtures arrives. Monday afternoon, the merchandise starts arriving. Our crew is there. They're setting everything up, assembling the fixtures, stocking the merchandise, and so forth. And by Friday, you're ready to open, Saturday the latest. So I have seen where we might have 2 or 3 smaller shipments arrive late in the week or actually the following Monday, but it's been very rare, quite honestly. I'm pleasantly surprised. We just did an 8,000 square foot store, which took us about 2 weeks, which is typical. And within that time span, all the merchandise arrived. So that was, to me, a pretty good indicator that things are starting to fix themselves. So, but good questions, you know, and it's certainly in the news. It's something to be aware of. But we're just not experiencing that, Monique.
So are most of our suppliers overseas, or are they U.S. based?
They're all U.S. based. Yeah, all U.S. based. Now, some of those suppliers here import product from overseas, from different countries, but in terms of you buying merchandise from someone, they're right here in the U.S. Yeah, you're not waiting for container ship or something. You're welcome. Thank you very much. An excellent question. It's certainly been in the news.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
yes, Reggie from Virginia.
Good evening. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
One of them is, where do we go for the training? Is there a certain state or so-and-so that you have set up that we come for training, or how does that work?
Actually, you don't have to come at all. We do it, we have an internet component to the training, and then we have a live phone training component. We do the phone training we do at your convenience, and the internet training is a set of different modules that you can do at your convenience, and then follow up with the trainer here in our office with questions that you might have. So we used to do the in-house training, but we stopped during COVID. And we always did the online and the phone training because a lot of people didn't want to make the trip or couldn't get away. So we've actually kind of morphed into just doing that. It's so much more effective, and people like it because they don't have to sit in a classroom for 8 or 9 hours for 3 or 4 days in a row. They can do it at home on their own schedule and then do the follow-up with the trainer. So it works out very well.
Well, I'm a person like on hand type of person. I don't like to see it. That's why I was asking that question. And what is the average profit of a store of a 15,000 square foot? You know, I mean, I know you know pretty much average. I'm not saying to the penny, nothing like that. I'm just asking what is the average?
The best way to answer that, there kind of is no average, Reggie, because so many things vary. You know, the rental rates, the cost of labor and so forth. But some basic numbers that I can give you are these. In a 1-2-3 store, the average cost of merchandise is going to be about 50% of retail, sometimes more, but at minimum it's going to be that. So if you have an item that sells for $3, you pay $1.50 for it. So your gross margin on product is going to be 50% or better. Then the other good number that I can give you is when we look for spaces for our clients to potentially lease, we try to look for something that we feel is going to be able to generate somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 square foot annually in sales. So if you had, let's say you had a 3,000 square foot store, and you were doing $200 a foot, that would be gross sales of $600,000, and your gross profit on those sales would be $300,000. And then from that, you would decline your expenses, your rent and labor and so forth. So those are just some rough numbers. And what we do too, Reggie, just so you know, and all of us.
Ooh, who wants the donuts?
Oh, I'll take a donut. I lost my train of thought there. I was excited about the donuts. You're too far away, Reggie. I can't get to Virginia tonight, but I'll do the best I can. But anyway,
But that wasn't it.
But what we do, okay, what we do when you're in real estate and we've identified a location that you like, we've negotiated the lease, so now we know all the numbers. We know what the rent is, we know how long the landlord's going to deliver the space, where your competitors are, and so on. I can sit down with you and we can kind of go through kind of a thumbnail P&L, a profit and loss statement for that specific location, because now we know everything that we can know. You know, we know what the rent is. We know what the potential for sales can be, and we can estimate the other expenses. So before you ever put pen to paper to sign a lease, we'll do that with you. So you can look at it and say, yeah, okay, this can work. Okay, good. Yeah.
My last question is, this is an all-dry type store. What I mean by all-dry means there's no refrigeration like when you see some of them selling milk and eggs and all that. This is all dry product, correct?
To a degree. In our program, yes, it is. But a lot of our owners, and we work with them on this, say, for example, you're in an area that taking the food stamps, the EBT program, would benefit you because there's maybe a lot of middle and lower middle income people living in and around your store. Once you're open, we can help you apply to be able to take those EBT cards. You have to be open before you can make the application because they come and inspect your store and so forth. And then to do that, you'd have to buy one or a two-door cooler because you do have to have a few meat items and a few dairy items. But we help you source that. We also typically can work with Coke and or Pepsi to put a cooler on loan in your store if you buy their products from them, and a lot of stores choose to do that because it's a nice add-on sale. It doesn't take away from anything else. And even if you don't do the EBT, you might want to still buy that cooler because, you know, people come in, you know, oh, I'm here, I might as well grab a quart of milk or whatever. So you can take advantage of those impulse sales too. So, but you're right, typically it's a dry type operation, but we can help you customize it if you choose to do so.
No, I like the dry. Okay.
Excellent. Like yeah, it's much easier. I did the same.
I'm interested in the dollar store though.
Good. Okay, well, give us a call.
My wife, she's on. My wife, she's on, and she's listening. You have any questions, Gina? Gina, you have any questions? I guess she's.
No, I'm good. Okay. I'm good.
All right. Well,
I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
This is Irving from City again. I have one more question. Now,
yes,
as far as the financing goes, and I know you spoke briefly about getting financed and how you have lenders who will work with your financing. No matter how bad your credit is or how you can work towards getting your credit improved, you do have that, correct? And
yes.
Is there a certain financial score that you need to have to secure financing, or would you say like, hey, if I had a 750 credit score, I can almost be guaranteed credit, or if I had a 580 credit score, they would say, well, look, you can open a store, but we have to work with you to get your credit improved. Could you expound on that just a little bit more for the listeners?
Fair question. If your credit score, and we look at FICOs primarily, or the lenders do, if you're 700 or better and there's no serious blemishes, you shouldn't have any issue getting credit. 720, somewhere in there. If you're 750, I'll take you to dinner, because I know. And we'll get a donut from Reginald's wife, because I know that you're going to be okay. So yeah, does that kind of answer your question?
It does. It does.
Good.
It does. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And Reggie, before I forget, if you're ready to get started, give us a call tomorrow. Sounds like you're almost there, so don't hesitate.
Yeah, we have dealt with stores before and stuff like that. So yeah,
Okay.
we are interested.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop for just a minute. I want to.
Oh, I got a question.
Yeah,
I got a question. Excuse me.
Okay, go ahead.
Do we
Who's
come
this?
back and deal with you, or do we deal with the person who brought us on? Like the guy that's been calling me was Sean. Do I go back to Sean with this, or do I come to you? What I need to do with that?
I would recommend that you go to Sean or whomever initially communicated with you. That's fine. I'm always going to be involved, and once you come on board, you'll be stuck with me more than anyone else. Because whether you're in finance or real estate or getting ready to open your store and training, that's kind of where I come into play a little bit more. So we'll be talking about locations. Even though you have a leasing team that you're working with, I'll be watching to see what they're finding for you. There's going to be no shortage of questions as we kind of work through the process. So that's kind of where I get more involved. But you can always call me. In fact, I was going to stop for a minute and give everybody my phone number in case you do want to call me. Feel free anytime. If you want to grab a pen or a pencil and jot it down, I'll give it to you right now.
Yeah, hold on a second.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, if everybody else is ready, 702-637-3389, and that comes right to my desk. If I don't pick up, leave a message. I'll call you back. And you can, as I say, you can always communicate with your store development person that you've been speaking with. But if you have questions for me, give me a ring. Don't hesitate. Very good. Next question.
All right. Yeah, my name is Kenny. I'm from southwestern Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And on the product that comes our way, who pays for the shipping?
You would pay for the shipping.
On an ongoing basis.
Yeah, well, in the initial store setup, of course, that's part of your package, so that's in your package. You don't have to worry about that. Going forward, yes, you would be responsible for the freight costs to get the product to your store. Now, some suppliers include the freight in the price, so there is no freight. Some have caps where your freight is going to be capped at, say, 10% of your order amount, things like there are all various programs that the different suppliers have, but the long and the short of it is, yes, you are responsible for the freight, for the shipping.
So depending on the quantity you get from any given source, it's either going to come freight or UPS, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
And then I've got a couple other questions here real quick.
Go ahead.
Returns. Are returns a burden that we deal with on our own?
Yes, and there are, if you have an item that comes in damaged, we'll give you a couple of different examples. You have an item that comes in damaged, that's either going to be a freight claim against the carrier, or it's going to be a poor packing claim against the supplier, depending on what it is. And they're very good about taking care of those. If an item gets damaged in your store, that is your responsibility, and there is no credit or return privileges for that. And other than that, once you buy the merchandise, you do own it.
Okay. All right. And then my other question is, what percentage of the stores are still open after 5 years?
Good question. Hold on 1 second, though, Kenny. If somebody has not muted your phone, please do so. If you haven't muted your phone, please do so. It's very hard to hear. Okay, Kenny, to your question, you said to longevity of the stores, I think it was.
Yes.
I would say over.
No, they didn't send me an email.
Ma'am, could you please mute your phone? Thank you. What we see typically, Kenny, and we're not a franchise, so we don't.
Mine is muted. Am I muted, right?
No, you're not.
Yeah. Okay.
You are not muted,
I'm not
ma'am.
muted?
No, otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you. I think you're muted now. Are you still there, Kenny?
I am.
Okay. Okay, good. To answer your question, we're not a franchise, so we don't always get all the information I'd like to get. But what I've seen over the years is typically within the first 3 to 5 years, there's maybe a 5 to 8% of stores that do not renew their leases for any number of reasons. You know,
Okay.
and there's really primarily two. One, sometimes despite our best efforts, a client may insist on taking location that we just can't endorse. You know, maybe we feel the rent's too high, or maybe we feel there's competition too close, but the owner's dead set on that location, and sometimes they even go so far as to draft a letter and send it to them and have them sign it that says, you know, we can't endorse this location because of A, B, and C, whatever those things are. And if they still decide to go forward, you know, we certainly do the best job possible of negotiating the lease for them, of course, and setting up their store. But sometimes people just, despite good counsel, sometimes make bad choices. So that's the overwhelming one. The other thing that I see sometimes, Kenny, not very often, but I do see it is, and I don't know what your background is, but sometimes if you've never owned or been involved in operating a business, you know, as a manager or something like that, it all looks easy from the outside. And our business is an easy business. It's not hard at all, but you have to run it. You know, and sometimes I may be talking to a client, and this happened a few weeks ago actually. The more you talk to somebody, you get to know them more and what they're about, and you know what their frame of mind is about owning a business. And this one individual, you know, I kind of just flat out said, I said, you know, Mark, if you believe that this is something where you can just come in on Friday afternoon and put all the money in a shoebox and take it to the bank, this may not be for you. I said it's a business, and it can be very rewarding, but it is a business, and you have to operate it. You don't have to live in the store, and you don't have to be there 50 hours a week, but you got to mind the store. You know, I always tell people, even if you're going to be primarily absentee, keep the ordering responsibility for yourself for a pretty good period of time, and you can do it in a few hours a week, but it's the core of your business. Don't give it to somebody to do for you. Do it yourself. You know, and know what's going on in your store and things of that nature. So sometimes I find that people just have maybe an unreal expectation, is what you might say, of what owning a business is about, and they find that it's just not for them. But other than that,
Right.
you know, the stores well run, they run themselves after a bit. Yes, sir. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. The final question I have is that if I gave you a zip code, would you be able to pinpoint an existing location near me that I might be able to go make a site visit just
Sure.
to kind of see?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely, we can do that. If you want to give me a call tomorrow, I'll research and I'll grab one for you. Or you can call your store development rep. Either way, they'll come back to me, and that might be quicker actually for you. And we'll find something for you to take a look at.
All right,
here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kenny. I appreciate your questions. Have a good evening.